Hugh Hefner, a true American icon, created an empire that was unrivaled.
Although some of us bunnies may have gone rogue, it's because of the love and respect that we received from the man behind it all.
Because after all, we did learn from the best.
Relive the stories from the most prominent celebrity home in history.
What happens in the grotto stays in the grotto.
From those of us that lived it,
The employees that worked it,
And the guests who loved it.
And
the mayhem continues.
All right, we're doing part 2 because I knew the stories were just going to keep coming. Ava Fabian, thank you so much for joining
thank you for
us.
having me.
We are only in the mid-90s. We started the late 80s.
we got a couple decades.
We're in the mid-90s. And then, you think about the different changes that happened at the mansion. When Barbie Benton found the mansion, and we're talking the 70s, and it goes into like the wild, crazy 80s that happened. And then the boss got married.
The boss got married. I went to the wedding. There was only 4 playmates. It was Gene Simmons and his wife, Julie McCullough, myself, and I don't know if there was another one. Maybe it was 3 of us.
Wow.
And I got to sit next
Kimberly was the
to
fourth.
Leroy Neiman.
Oh,
He said he was on my left, and my date was on my right, and and my date has all of his artwork, so that was a really great.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, Leroy was great, and it was Tony Curtis, and it was a beautiful wedding. It was really beautiful. She looked stunning, and I remember when Kimberly first came to the mansion, and Hef had just broken up with Carrie Lee, and that was a whole debacle, and he didn't want to be alone. So he'd have me and Julie go up and hang out with him. I didn't. I was always afraid of Hef. I never spoke to Hef unless he spoke to me. You've never seen me have small talk with him. Never, ever.
Really?
Mm-mm. I was always...
What do you mean you were afraid?
I don't know, because he was wild, and I'm a country girl, and I always had one boyfriend, and I wasn't doing all that, partners and stuff. So one time up at the mansion, Carrie Lee and I had not the same shaped bodies, but we had the same dark hair and the same kind of haircut. It was that Joan Jett, high top, and, rocker hair. And I'm standing looking at the house from the backyard, and I get these hands that went around my waist and somebody kissing my neck. I almost died. I turned around, and it was Hef, and I startled him, and he startled me. He thought I was Carrie Lee.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he was so apologetic.
he was probably like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
He was like, I startled him because I went like that. But Carrie was really great. I loved her. I still love her. She's
Do you still keep in
beautiful.
contact?
I keep in contact. I haven't lately because I've been not so much on social media, but she's still as beautiful as ever. So at that
what
time,
I actually have? This is crazy, right? Because, we go through stuff and we have to make room and we'd have different closets of stuff. I actually have the mold for a Carrie Lee bust.
wow.
Yeah. And it was going to be thrown away. And I'm like,
Don't.
no, that thing's freaking cool. And you want to know why I kept it? When you go to Disneyland at the Haunted Mansion, and as you're going first in there and you see what they do is they take the inside of a mold, right? Where you see, and if you look different ways, it looks like the statues moving. And that's what was cool. So I used to leave it in the house office, and it was cool. And people would like look at them. I'll look at it from different views. And it would be like Carrie Lee staring at us.
Oh,
I still have that. I still have it somewhere.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a big change in the house when she moved out, and Hef kept the cat. She wanted the cat.
Well, when I got there, he had tons of cats.
Yeah. Well,
Really?
Oh, no, like tons of cats. Like part of the butler job was at the 11 o'clock guy had to go up and feed the cats.
Oh, I'm glad I missed that.
And there was probably on there like 10 little trays
In his room?
Yes.
Oh my
and you
God.
go to the
well,
back
that's
door.
Kimberly. You were there when
and
Kimberly came. Yeah, she had her pets.
Kimberly
in
and her
96.
2 dogs.
Well, she had the big
Dior,
dogs, but you had to go to the
Dior.
back, and the boss would meet you at the back door of the master, which was the dressing area.
Yep.
And you'd knock, and boom, he'd be there, hand him the little tray, and he'd have all the little cats.
She had a lot of pets.
So do you think Carrie Lee started the whole cat thing?
No, Kimberly's always had animals. She's a lover of animals.
Yeah, she's an animal activist.
Yeah, when he saw her, I mean, she's smoking. Those eyes, that body, and she was Canadian, and I mean, from head to toe, smoking.
And still gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Still gorgeous.
Stunning.
Yeah, she's a very pretty woman.
Beautiful. And so
Kimberly has a grace about her that she always kept.
Yep.
You know, it was really cool. I got to do a Thanksgiving for her with her and the family. This was a couple of years ago. And it was cool. We did it over at Kimberly's house. And I mean, she's still this stunning, graceful woman.
She's like a supermodel.
It was so cool. To this day, I could only call her ma'am. It always was like, you can call me Kim. Nope.
Ma'am?
Ma'am. It's still ma'am, you know. It's just one of those things, you grow up into.
But I remember they went on a date. The first date they had was with Dr. Mark
Saginaw.
Oh, Mark Saginaw. Okay.
And he was dating a girl named Ava. And those four went, and I think they were going to Nikki Blair's. And by the time they got there, it was closed. It was that or Dome. And so I was already up in the breakfast room eating. And they all came back and they had dinner around the table there. And that was
in the Mediterranean room?
The Mediterranean,
That
the
was
round table. That was
I
it.
love that room. That was my favorite room.
The dogs came. She had those two Dobermans, Dior, and then she had the long-haired dogs. Yeah.
Ooh, there were some big dogs.
Yeah.
Archie was one of the dogs.
I think that was on when she moved out.
Oh.
Yeah. Archie was the kid's dog, I think.
Oh.
But anyway, so I saw that transaction, and, she was lovely. And I'll never forget when she told me she was engaged. No one knew.
Oh.
They got engaged that night. Hef was playing backgammon in the backyard, and we were sitting outside around the fountain. And she said, I'm engaged. And I said, oh my gosh, she goes, nobody knows yet. Hef's going to tell the guys. I just, da-da-da-da-da. And I was so happy for her.
Wow.
And then I went to that wedding, and the wedding was beautiful. It was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool when you can Google and see some of these pictures.
Oh.
And then it's just gorgeous. Because I remember when Kendra was getting married there.
Yep.
It was a lot of those pictures where people were Googling up when the boss married Kimberly, you were looking at that and they were taking ideas from that.
Oh, yeah.
For the setup.
Stunning.
How to do it in the sunken lawn in the front yard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's where she got married, in the front yard.
Yes.
And then the party was in the back.
Same with Kendra.
With Kendra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then time moved on, and, let's talk about Joe Piastro, how much we love Joe.
We have to talk about Joe, but we got to take another break.
All right.
So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back, and I can't wait to talk about Joe. God, I miss that.
I know.
We will be right back. You are listening to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem.
Hey listeners, Victoria Fuller here, entrepreneur, artist, and of course forever Miss January 1996. My bunny sisters and I have joined forces, or should I say, have gone rogue, to revamp the heydays while exploring the future. Yes, I'm talking about the metaverse. So come join me and our sorority of the sexiest ladies on the planet. To join the party, find us at roguebunnies.com. That's ROGUEBUNNIES. Let's explore the future together.
Welcome to the metaverse.
Joe Piastro. I can't tell you how much I miss that man.
I know.
So for those that are listening, you're like, Joe Piastro. Who's Joe Piastro? So Joe Piastro was in security. Originally, when I got there, Bill Bates. You remember Bill Bates?
I do.
Bill Bates was
Bill.
in charge of security at the mansion. We had Hank Eberhardt, who was in charge of the security detail from Playboy. So from the offices at the mansion, and then you have Joe Piastro. Well, Bill Bates had retired. And then Joe Piastro take on. But there was a thing about Joe that Joe understood, like what we all understood, is like we were part of a family. And you knew who you could go to that's like, I'm there to protect you. And Joe is very protective. And Joe always had a thing for you. Loved you. Oh my gosh.
Loved him.
Loved you. So please talk about Joe.
Joe is wonderful. Like, I would go sit in his office and chit chat with him for like an hour if I'm just killing time. Because you can understand, we were allowed to go to the mansion 24/7.
Yeah.
Not when Kimberly was in the house. The rules had changed. The parties stopped for a while. Maybe we did Halloween. There was no Midsummers.
Nope. When I came on the scene in 96, there were no parties yet.
No
Except
parties.
for
the black tie.
We had New Year's Eve, which was
New
black
Year's Eve,
tie,
that
black
was
tie,
it.
and really nice gowns.
Yes.
Because that's what
Things
I
changed.
witnessed when I first got there.
Yeah, everything changed, but I didn't care. I was always allowed. So, I mean, if you wake up at 3 a.m. and you don't want to lay in bed, go up to the mansion because I only lived a mile and a half. I'd walk in and all the staff, the butlers, everybody, the sous chefs were so cool. I'd sit with them and talk for
But see,
hours.
for the listener, right? Understand, you're talking 3 a.m. There was full staff there,
Full staff,
24/7.
Yeah. You could have
24/7.
lobster. You could have anything
The
you
gym,
wanted.
the pool, the jacuzzi, the sauna, the steam room, the tanning beds.
The tanning beds girls used to fight over all the time. But we used to go clubbing and then leave like Helena's back in the 80s and all drive up to the mansion. The rule was not to wake half up, like screaming. And we would sit outside in lounge chairs and drink champagne and whatever we wanted. And there was a box. There was
Like taking it to the grotto, like enclosed.
No, we didn't go in the grotto. We stayed outside. It was hot and summery.
The wooden box with
the little
red
box
button.
with the red button, and we would just hit that box, and the butlers loved.
So there was
outside.
a little wooden box with a red button. I mean, John Collado actually put that together. He was in the video department, and that would buzz the butlers in the butler's pantry. And whenever that thing would go off, you knew that you were being beckoned and called.
And they loved to come out, the butlers, because they're our peers. They were our age. They're not old men. They were all young and our peers. And some of the girls would be laying out topless, waiting for the sun to come up. Some were naked, some weren't. And, we
What a job.
Exactly. What a job. I mean, really. And we loved having them there. I mean,
Yeah, we all became very close.
yeah.
Listen, you could be topless at the mansion and the staff would walk up and you just felt like
They didn't notice.
it didn't feel weird at all.
Well, because we were desensitized.
Like the photographers. But you get fresh bait every day.
No one ever made you feel uncomfortable or
Yeah,
like
time and
I shouldn't be
place.
looking at you or like
Well, that's one thing I could say about the staff, and all the staff was picked, specifically to know who you could trust, because most people didn't realize how everyone was either related or a best friend of, and you were never going to refer someone that was going to tarnish your reputation. And everybody knew, look, you're here representing the boss.
Yep.
And do not
an
look like a
ambassador.
creep. Yeah, you're going to see a hot
Yeah.
girl. She's going to walk by. Do not stare, because guess what? There's going to be another beautiful woman walk behind her.
Yeah.
You're going to see the
Right.
most beautifulest women in the world. Guess what? That's the world you live in. And you just get used to that. And actually, the staff got that because you do want to be creeped out having someone staring at you.
No.
And the staff all knew that. And they were trained to know that, like, you're here to make these girls feel comfortable. And I'm glad to hear it from you to say
my
that,
God, yeah. We
that's what
love
these guys
the
did,
staff. I remember we had a big party and Rod Stewart was with one of his wives. I'm not going to say who it was, but he wasn't there. And she came up and she had shot for Playboy. She did a pictorial and she treated one of the staff members horrific and bossed him and said, "This is not what I wanted." And I went up and I tapped her on the back and I said, "Hi, my name is Ava Fabian and I work here." I said, "We don't talk to our staff like that, and I would prefer you don't either."
Wow.
And that was it. That's all I had to say. And she just looked at me, and I was like, "That's the way we work."
Yeah.
And I walked away. And
That's
I could
cool.
have gotten in big trouble for doing that, but was she going to go tell somebody I told her off or how to act? But she was so rude, and I was standing there.
Yeah, no, that's what was one thing that also the boss, he took his staff very seriously, that he knew he would say to the staff, because you do know that you are a representative of me. I am trusting you guys, and we all took that very seriously. So if we ever saw something at a party, say like a situation like this, I'd call security in 2 seconds and I'm all, they're gone.
Yep.
There were so many times at parties. I remember 2 Midsummers. I would be having a conversation with someone, and 2 of the times it was a celebrity that people would know. And security would come up and they were like, "Do you want me to have them removed?" And I'm like, "No, it's fine. But just like take them off the list for like everyone." You know what I mean? Let them have their night. It's fine. But it was like everyone wanted to make sure everybody was okay.
Always.
Yeah.
They love taking.
As far as Hef was concerned, it's like he was upstairs working. So the staff was his representation. You
Correct.
walk in that front door.
Yep.
And it's the staff that was greeting the guests and the people and the playmates. So there was a level of trust he had to have for everyone who worked there because you were representing him when you walked in
Absolutely.
front
And just
door
like
of
we
his house.
represent Playboy as ambassadors.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I got to tell you, in my time, we were wild.
Yeah.
We were fucking
It was definitely
wild.
a different
We
time.
had this event in Las Vegas called the Wet and Wild Party.
Oh, I caught the last 2 years.
Oh my God. Let me tell you something. So when I first did the party, I had girls from the early 80s. So I was in that kind of a group, and 86, 87, 88. So it ranged, in the 8-year of Playmates. And they would bring about 40 to 60 of us.
Yeah.
Well, we had to show up at the park in our swimsuits.
It's a water park. It was a water park in Vegas.
Oh.
And they
Huge.
rent the whole park.
For all their clients. And so it's thousands. Maybe half the girls showed up. 5 of them ran off and got married. Somebody met the cowboy at the table. These are all the earlier
in Vegas.
80s. Some was getting high, eating Quaaludes. It was such a
What a time to be alive.
Going down the lazy
we would
Susan,
eat Quaaludes.
drinking.
We were doing Quaaludes too. And we were wild. And one particular Playmate and I, we had to say, it was for, I'm going to just say entertainment tonight. We're at Wet and Wild. And we wouldn't get it right deliberately because we were so high and we were laughing. They're like, no, do it again. Take 2. I think it took us like 16 until we finally realized we got to do it right. But we'd be like, wet fucking wild. And they go, no, that's not going to work. And we'd laugh and we go, okay, wet fucking wild. And we would do it even bigger and bigger. And we just had so much fun. And half the girls ran off with the guys. I mean, it was wild.
It was fun. I got to do one of. I got to do 2 of those. We had the bikinis, and
We had bikinis. We had a surfboard that
There was just
ran
so
in
much.
the water. It was me, Carrie, Barbara Moore.
I'm gonna give you the picture.
I have a bunch of us.
Man, I
Yeah.
want to see this.
And I'm in the bunny
Karen
outfit.
McDougal.
One.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's in the bunny outfit.
McDougal.
Karen
Yes.
McDougal, Lisa Durgan.
They were in the silver. I have
Wow.
a bunch of pictures.
Oh, a lot of
Any
those
of
girls were
this.
part of the party posse. They came up in the late 90s.
Yep.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back. Let's talk about the late 90s and when the boss decided to come back out and play. You are listening to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem.
Ever wish you could talk to Playmate and Rogue Bunny Ava Fabian one-on-one? We're introducing an exciting new collaboration with velvetrope.com to make your dreams a reality. You can chat about current events, her many adventures with Playboy, or whatever your heart desires. Just keep it classy. Want more details? Visit avafabian.velvetrope.com. She can't wait to talk to you, and the mayhem continues.
Welcome to the metaverse.
So Ava, we're I can't get this out of my head. The Wet and Wild party. I'm pissed off that I didn't get to see
wild.
that.
It wasn't Wet and Wild.
The best we had was probably the 4th of July when we had the slip and slide on the side of the house.
Yeah,
that was a blast. That was fun. But you got to experience, like I said, the late 80s. You had the 90s, and then everything got tamed out at the mansion. Kimberly, was now married to the boss. She had Marston and Cooper, kids around. All of a sudden, Playmates at Play sign is gone for when you first drive up to the mansion. It's kids at play.
Yeah,
I mean,
That was smart thing.
Yes,
like
yes. When I first got there, you would walk up through the driveway, and it said kids at play.
Yeah.
So that's when they put the Playmates over the top. Like after that all
There was a
changed.
whole nother sign. So when the boss,
Because that's when you're like a new Playmate and you drove up that driveway, that's the first thing I saw.
Yes.
It was like the coolest experience.
Well, that sign came back. The boss had, unfortunately they had separated, and then they went through the divorce, but the boss decided to start bringing back all the parties and bam.
The first one was the Midsummers because I remember it was Jim Carrey and Brad Pitt and
Everybody was there.
What's his name?
Quentin
Who's married to
Tarantino.
Jennifer. I took Quentin. I took
What?
Quentin on one arm, and I took Rick James and Quentin Tarantino.
So it was Rick James.
Rick
What do you mean he
James-
loved the cookies?
Holy shit.
Well, Rick James was getting really sick, and he would go to the hospital. And so when he came to the Midsummers, he ate the cookies, and he just loved them.
Oh,
And
okay, yes, the
so
fresh
now he
mansion
goes,
cookies.
yes,
Okay,
and now
gotcha.
he goes into the hospital, and I had asked Half and Half said, yes, you can bring him a care package, and you guys made me up cookies and everything that he liked, and I took him into the hospital, and he almost died. Then he didn't die, and then he came back out, and then the next year, before the Midsummers, he asked me if I could take him again, and I said yes, and then he died. So he didn't make it. But
wow.
Quentin, I have great pictures of Quentin. He's never been there before. And then fast forward, just up till 8 years ago, he filmed a movie up there.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah. And he told everyone I was the first one that brought him up there.
And he had the premiere party of the DVD release for Kill Bill. It was at 1 and 2.
And that's when everybody used to be able to drive up and the whole Sunset would be jammed. You couldn't get down Sunset.
And you could take cameras.
And you could take cameras. But then that ended because he had to bus us in because it was fire. Yeah, like the city.
It was the noise. The noise, right?
No, I'm talking about the cars coming in.
We had so many cars. We had both the noise ordinance as well as blocking traffic. And
It would take
we had talked about
hours.
that on another episode. Yeah, it was
hours
pretty
to get
crazy.
in. Yeah.
Your club was no longer around.
No.
But now you had Garden of Eden. You had all these other clubs. He had what we called the Party Posse, where we've talked with Allison and Joel, Lisa Durgan.
Yeah.
They all came up. And then, of course, you had the Brandy, the Mandy, the Sandys.
Jessica.
All coming up. And Jessica. So, wow.
Those were fun days. And then they... we would go out with Hef. I would go out with him and the girls, and people were just shocked to see him. But what happened was after him having that first party, the cameras, were taking pictures of the celebrities, and I brought up Mr. Big to one of them, and they would post it in the magazine in the front.
Right.
They weren't supposed to be there, some of these people.
Oh,
so they were lying. So they stopped coming up, and Hef had to put a big sign saying, "You are being recorded."
Oh, yeah.
And there's a camera.
Yep.
So, that's going to happen. So, they were warned. But everybody, that first party was Jim Carrey. I remember I hooked up with him on a few dates, just dinner dates and stuff like that. But the fun part was, the next day, Sunday, we would sit and talk about everything at the parties, and everybody was still all jacked
Fun in the
up.
sun.
Fun in the sun, hanging out at the mansion, talking about the party the night before. Great.
And that's when the parties would go to like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
No, we didn't start stopping them till 2 o'clock until like probably 2010, maybe around there. Stuff when we started putting
He
time
never liked
limits.
to tell anybody.
He
to
would
go
go,
home.
no, all of us staff, we'd sit there and wait. You're going, we can't leave until he goes in. And it'd be 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And you'd be out there hanging out with everybody just like you did not strike a thing until he went in. And everyone hung out all night.
So much fun. So much fun. And then we did our 50th anniversary party and traveled the world. So they broke us up in 2 groups.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was Johnny Walker who sponsored us.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was terrible because we'd have to go to these bars and promote Johnny Walker, and they didn't serve any alcohol except that. And if you wanted to drink, you had to drink Johnny Walker. So we got smart and started bringing
5 years
vodka.
behind because I would have loved that.
Yeah. What, you like Johnny Walker?
Yes.
Oh.
Like,
This
I
was
would've
the
loved that.
blue, too.
Oh, we
The
used to have
blue.
tasting parties at the mansion. Johnny Walker. They would have that all
The
lined
blue.
out. Yeah, they'd have the blue.
Oh,
they'd have
so
all of them.
expensive.
Everyone there,
Yeah.
and everyone would be going through with the tasting parties. All these people
Yeah.
would come up for Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
I remember those.
Some of those parties at the mansion, things that I saw farm animals wouldn't even do. Not the playmates, it's the guests. They would be in the grotto doing stuff that I went.
You have to it was the guest, and it was not
Those
us, it was
radio
not the
Christmas
playmates.
parties. They were insane. The radio Christmas parties.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the Tom Likas bunny balls? Well, here's the funny thing. We got Brett here. You've been there, right? You remember those?
Love the Tom Likas show. That was my favorite show.
That was so much fun. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, Ava, I mean, unfortunately, we are running out of time.
Okay.
I can't thank you enough. I mean, this was fun.
We have to
do this
continue.
again.
So we're going
again.
to stop right now at 2004. Okay, that's it. And then when I come back, we'll continue from 2004.
Yeah, we didn't even touch on like Ava and I working together in 2009. And
Well, it looks like we're going to have to get that in the next show.
Right?
Yes.
Ava, thank you so much.
It's been a
Thank you
great
for being
time.
such a doll.
Thank you.
We love you. And you know what? You know what we should do is when we do this next show, we should all we're gonna wait till you come out here, Jen.
That'd be great.
We got to get you out here, and then we all get together in a room. And oh my gosh, we'll make sure you have some Johnny Walker.
Yeah,
I'm easy.
Well, I'm Brian Olea.
I'm Victoria Fuller.
I'm Ava Fabian.
Jennifer Pershing.
And you are listening to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. And
the mayhem continues.